Okay, and who have we got from Local Digital today? We have Helen Braithwaite, our Head of Engagement, Ben Cheetham, Head of Local Digital Cyber, and we have 4 of the collaboration team today. We have Egley Shaw, Izzy Champion, Leon Aki, and myself. We also have Pippa Driver, our Communication Lead, and Phil James, our Community Engagement Manager, and special guest Paul Doney from Newcastle County Council. We have a lot to pack into the next 90 minutes, and shortly Ben will be kicking things off by outlining the focus of this funding round. Then we hand over to Egley, our longest serving collaboration manager, who will talk through the funding criteria and how the actual application journey works. Leon will then go through your pre-submitted questions. Paul Doney will talk about his experience preparing and submitting Newcastle's application from round 5. And then we'll open to questions during our 30 minutes of Q&A hosted by Phil. Please use the team's Q&A function to pose questions in advance as we go along, otherwise we will take them live. Finally, we'll hear from Izzy Champion about the imminent launch of the future councils. So, as we said, we've got over 300 individual sign-ups to this event, so we may not have a chance to answer all your questions this morning. The webinar will be uploaded to our website over the coming days, along with the answers to the questions posed. The DLUC Local Digital Fund Slack channel is also a good place to ask questions or start conversations if you are looking to partner with another authority. Finally, and if you didn't know already, the web forms are live on our website. Sign up to our mailing list to keep up to date with what's happening with round 6, but also hear about other opportunities, including funding and training events. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Ben, who will just call out in true Chris Whitty style for me to move along with the slides. Ben.
Thanks, Tom. So really pleased to see so many of you here today for the launch of the Round 6 fund. Do you want to move on to the next slide, Tom? Thanks. So yeah, this is the 6th round of the fund, and we've previously funded or granted over £13 million to about 44 projects with over 100 councils. So it's amazing to see the work that's been done already. You know, do encourage you to go and have a look at our website. You know, there's a range of different projects, from things like data standards to things like open referral, through to like local gov Drupal, where there's like a whole content management system there that's being reused by, I think it's about 20 councils now, with, you know, eyes on a lot more. And then back office systems like the income management project from Barnsley. So there's a whole range of different types of projects, and 31 councils someone's put in the chat. Thank you very much. So yeah, there's a whole range of things. Do check it out. Next slide, please, Mr. Lowndes. So yeah, so I think the success of all these projects has played a really significant part in us being able to have make a successful argument end of last year for more funding. And so we were able to secure £85 million of funding for the next 3 years. And I think whilst there's lots still to do, we should take a moment to sort of reflect, the good work that has happened, in a relatively short time. We've got all these projects in place. There's lots of other work that's happened in the sector, and we are, digital and cyber for local government is really on the agenda now within central government and in the department. And we're starting to see councils collaborate and reuse work in different ways. Suppliers are starting to respond in some cases and start to change their approach. So do check out the DLUC digital blog, and you can find out more about some of the other activity we've got planned for the next little while, and you can find out more about that. So next slide, please, Tom. So I think before I talk specifically about round 6, I think it's just worth setting the local digital fund in context. So this fund is one of 3 that we currently have sort of on the go. So we've got our cyber backup fund, which has been supporting councils to address like the most severe issues that impact their cyber postures, things like making sure they've got good backups in place and good kind of network security. We've got, I think, around about 150 councils that are part of that now, and that fund is sort of winding down now with the current cohort. We've then got the local digital fund, where we've been focusing on council services, and the technology that underpins them. And then Izzy's going to be talking a little bit more about future councils later, but this is our new fund that we're going to be talking more about over the coming weeks. Where we want to look at the broader support for councils to become, modern, resilient councils. Next slide, please, Tom. Thanks. So round 6, we're looking to fund projects that will make local government services safer, resilient, cheaper to run, and break the dependence on that inflexible technology. So I'm just going to kind of dig into that a little bit more now. So Tom, if you could one more, please. Thank you. So I think we've, as many of you I'm sure will know, we've had some significant events over the past couple of years that have really brought home the challenge that we face. We've got sort of never-ending sort of cyber incidents now. So we've had some ransomware attacks on council systems, and I think in part that's because we've just got lots of older technology in place, often expensive to run, stuck on premise. We don't really understand how it works. So when we've had some of these supply chain issues, we're not quite sure what we've got. Many cases there's no decent alternative. It might not be as accessible as it needs to be, and it can just be really hard to get our data in or out of that system. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff here that's a risk, but it's also sort of slowing our progress towards making great public services. And then I think it's also worth kind of clocking at the broader resilience point. We are so reliant on technology now, understandably so, particularly with all the lockdowns and things that we've had in the past. But we don't often put the plans in place for when the technology is not there or doesn't work. And so I'm keen that we think through this fund. When we redesign services, we consider what happens when the technology is unavailable. And there will undoubtedly be some overlap with the inclusive design works and making sure that our public services are accessible as possible to all. And then I also want to kind of challenge the data that we collect and hold. So we've seen with more recent cyber attacks that data is often taken as well. So I want to make sure that we're only really holding the data that we really need to. But that also has a kind of a benefit for citizens and the people that are interacting with our services. So if they don't have to type in and provide as much information, that makes the service easier for them to use. So it's sort of a win-win in a way. Next slide, please, Tom. So the other bit is around making sure we have the right skills and the flexible technology in place. So we've got an example here of Ada and Worthing, at the start of the COVID lockdowns, where they were able to stand up a volunteering platform within 48 hours on their low code platform. And whether you're a council that wants to use low code, wants to build or buy, just making sure that you have the skills and the flexible technology in place to create services quickly and iterate them is really important. Next slide, please, Tom. And then the last bit is around data. So this is an example of, I think it was a council, trying to combine lots of information about vulnerable citizens during COVID, but just being able to get at the data, having the tools to manipulate it, the technology to reuse it. So having the APIs and things for being able to plug data in is just so important. So things like data standards, are of great interest to us as well through this fund. One more, Tom, please. Thank you. So we've got sort of two categories of things that we've called out in the prospectus. So one is around fixing the plumbing of government. So we are really keen for people to bring forward ideas around some of the big service areas such as housing or revs and bends or regulatory services or whatever. And that could be around things like making the technology that you have got a little bit safer by moving it to cloud hosting. It could be about kind of redesigning transactions and services to make them more user-centered and efficient. And that may in turn mean creating a wholesale kind of alternative. Councils have done lots of great work already. So if there's stuff that you already have in place that you think others might be able to reuse, then looking at how to scale that is also of interest to us. And that's how like the Barnsley income management project came about. That was something they built internally, and then through the fund they've done work to look at how it could be reused by others and scale that up from there. Next one, please, Tom. And so then the other is around kind of removing the barriers to make better reusable services. So this could be around data, so how to move data between systems, create standards, how to match data. Time and time again we hear stories of really struggling to be able to get data from one system to another, being able to tap into the data that Revs and Bens holds about citizens to reuse in a service over here to make that service much better, and things like that. So really keen to see things around that. It could be a manual or a playbook or patterns. So the approach for how to do a thing in a common way, and it could involve code as well and things like that. So it's a whole range of things that we're interested in seeing. One more, please, Tom. And so the last point I think is just to consider your approach. So I think there's an opportunity to obviously get some work done, but I think also think about how you can also use this as an opportunity to get more people in the council engaged in digital. Make sure if you bring a supplier in that you get them to coach some of your staff. So we had a really great example that stuck with me since round one. I think it was the chatbots project that Oxford City Council led. They went out and used the digital outcomes and specialist framework for the first time. They made sure that the supplier they brought in, rather than just doing the user research for them, the supplier trained council staff, so in the different service teams, to undertake the user research, and then support those staff to then perform the user research, and look at how they could present their findings. So as a result of the project, and the chatbots project didn't go forward, but actually they'd got a whole bunch of staff at the end of it that had been through user research training, were confident in performing user research and applied that in future projects. So just think about the way you can use this to build up capability in teams, and think about whether using some of this funding for backfilling staff rather than just giving it to a supplier. So I think just consider that as well. And that's it from me, Tom. So yeah, happy to have a chat with folk. My email address is there, but otherwise I'll stick around for questions later on in the session. But thank you very much, and good luck to everyone.
Thanks, Ben. Hopefully, Egle, you'll be picking up.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Ben. Hi, everyone. My name is Egle. I'm a collaboration manager, and in the next few minutes, I will talk you through things you should consider when making an application and provide an overview of the application journey. Next slide, please. Right, so before you get started with your application, we encourage you to take the time to read through the local digital fund prospectus, which is published on our website. So even if you applied to the fund in the previous rounds, you should still familiarize yourself with the prospectus, as some key elements have changed. You will notice that there are two types of criteria: eligibility and assessment. We will not score you on eligibility criteria. However, if you and your partners do not meet this criteria, we will not be able to accept your application. The first point to note is that the lead applicant must be a local authority in England and able to accept Section 31 grants. This includes most councils in England, but if you're not sure, check the list in Annex C of the prospectus or contact us at fund@localdigital.gov.uk for clarification. Lead council must collaborate with 2 other councils on the proposal. This means that you must have at least 3 councils mentioned in your application. If there are other organizations such as government departments, sector bodies, for example, LGA, LOTI, charities, or others who would like to be part of your bid, that's perfectly fine. You can add them to the application, or they can be an unofficial partner. However, other organizations will not count towards the requirement of having a minimum of 3 councils collaborating on the proposal. All councils listed in the application must be local digital declaration signatories. You can find the list of signatory councils on our website. 273 councils have signed the declaration to date. So the chances are that your partner councils are already signatories, but please do check. If your partners haven't signed the declaration yet, don't worry. There's guidance on our website on how to sign. For this, you will need to do 2 things. 1, commit to a declaration project, and 2, find a senior person in your council who can sign the declaration. So the project could be anything from redesigning an online form to rethinking how to train digital staff. However, if you promote common standard shared lessons and with our community and ideally be delivered in collaboration with at least one other local authority organization. For this, we will ask you for a project title, so that's the problem you're trying to solve, for your partner information, so what other organizations you'll work with, for a mission statement, so a summary of what you hope to have delivered within 1 year of signing the declaration, and a bit of information on impact, so the benefits of your project. As for the senior person, it can be your chief executive, your council leader, or a member that holds relevant portfolio, or a person with similar level of responsibility. Now to tell you a little bit more about the assessment criteria. Your answers will be scored against the assessment criteria. So in the prospectus, we have listed 12 criteria, and there are 12 questions in each of the application forms that relate to these. All required questions are weighted equally, even though the maximum character count may differ from question to question. One question is optional. You may choose not to answer this question. However, if you do, there's an opportunity to get an extra point. Whilst the criteria is the same for each delivery phase, the prompts in the application forms might differ. So when applying, make sure you answer the questions and the prompts to the best of your ability. Thank you, Tom. The first section in the assessment criteria is about strategic fit. So in this section, we want to understand what your proposal is all about. Does it aim to make local government services safer, more resilient, or cheaper to run? Is there a genuine need for your project? Who will be involved, and how will you work with your project partners and the sector? The next section is deliverability, and it is about for us to being sure that you can deliver the projects. We aim to understand what funding is needed and what is being contributed by you and your partners, what your project plan is, what team you already have in place or will have in place before the project starts. Also, we ask about any risks you may be aware of, your governance structures, and how you think you'll be able to evaluate your projects. Now, please note, in regards to finances, we want to know if you'll be contributing to the project and a breakdown of how the funding will be used. So if you or your project partners will be contributing to the project, let's say by dedicating staff time to work on it, or providing some funding or contributing in any other way, please provide this information in your application. Please also give us as much detail as possible, especially if you're looking to procure a delivery partner. So it's not enough to say, we'll give £80,000 of the £100,000 requested to the delivery partner. We want to know what skills you're planning to buy in, for how long, etc., etc. The final section has only one criteria, and it's about providing evidence for the potential level of benefits that your project will deliver within your council, scaled across collaborative partnership, and nationally. So it should cover both social and financial benefits. Social benefits may include things like improved safeguarding, accessibility, improved user experience, reduction in antisocial behavior, maybe improved opportunities for underprivileged persons or social mobility, or etc. Whilst financial benefits could talk about reduced failure demands, improved channelship, reducing double keying of information via systems integration, and the like. So let's say you have a great idea for a collaborative project. This is the journey that you're likely to take. Right now, you are in the pre-application stage, and you should be ensuring that you meet the aforementioned eligibility criteria and find at least 2 other councils to collaborate with. Next will be application stage. So you have until 5:30 p.m. on the 24th of November to submit the application using one of the online forms published on our website. So we encourage you to be specific when answering questions and refer to the assessment criteria in the prospectus. You can use the Microsoft Word template versions of the application forms to draft your application and then submit it using the web forms. You may also be invited to an interview on the 6th or 7th of December. So we will let you know on short notice. So we recommend ensuring now that at least one project team member is available on those dates. Interviews will be held by exception only, so not everyone will be invited to one. If you are invited, we won't need you to present or prepare anything in advance. We will simply want to query some aspects of your application. So prepare to be able to talk about your application in detail with our panel. And finally, after the funding is awarded, you will move into the delivery stage. We removed the timelines for project delivery as we want to be able to accommodate the projects as much as possible. Some areas are more complex than others, and it's unfair to expect projects to deliver discovery in 8 weeks and the like. We will work with you to ensure that the project keeps pace. And in your application, you need to be able to propose a viable delivery plan with start and end dates. Once you complete the project stage, there will be opportunity to progress your project via continuous funding model. It means you will not need to wait for another round of funding in order to progress your project further. You can read more about it on our website. And I will now hand off to Tom and Leon to talk us through some pre-submitted questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Egli. Really clear, hopefully. Now, so I'll be introducing my colleague, Leon Aki, and we're going to be dipping into the digital postbag, and we've got some responses ready for you. So the first question for you, Leon, will multi-year projects be considered? Leon.
Thanks, Tom. Yes, we will consider multi-year projects. We're happy to receive applications for projects of varying size, subject to our funding limits. Whilst it wouldn't be reasonable for example, a discovery to span over a number of years, end to end, we appreciate that there are some projects that might need more time to deliver the complete product than others. Generally, the amount of time taken to deliver a project would be expected to be proportionate to the complexity of the problem being solved. For example, a project that aims to produce a case management solution covering a number of transactions would be expected to take longer to deliver than a project that focuses solely on one. Projects that are approved for support through the Local Digital Fund would be expected to progress through the agile delivery stages from discovery to alpha to beta, etc. If they wish to successfully apply for additional funds through our continuous funding framework.
Excellent. Thank you, Leon. And the next question we had was, are there links with the Department for Education's Local Authority Children's Social Care Data and Digital Solutions Fund, DDSF? Leon.
Not explicitly. The Department for Education's Data and Digital Solutions Fund is open for proposals for collaborative projects which contribute to 3 data and digital priorities that are set out in the care review. Round 6 of the Local Digital Fund, on the other hand, provides an opportunity for local authorities to propose their own projects. Social care projects are within our scope, and we welcome applications in that service area. But we will work with colleagues from the Department for Education and Department of Health and Social Care when assessing social care related applications. So if you are applying for support from both the Local Digital Fund and the Data and Digital Solutions Fund, please make it clear in your application. We would ask that you concisely outline how you'll manage potentially competing demands from different stakeholders, what the contributions are from each fund and how they will be used, and how project governance will handle the reporting requirements to multiple government departments and others.
Thanks, Leon. Next question is, can we receive support to join the Open Digital Planning Project? Can we apply for planning related matters?
Okay, the Open Digital Planning team plan to launch a new funding round related to planning software in the next couple of months. Funds will be available to councils who want to join the Open Digital Planning, which is the new name for RIPA and BOPS, and for councils who want to work on other projects related to development management software, such as how applications are submitted by agents or applicants and assessed by officers, and not any other part of the planning system. The Open Digital Planning team will share details relating to this fund through our local digital channels. If you have a proposal relating to joining the Open Digital Planning project, we would advise you wait until that announcement has taken place and don't apply for any funding in relation to that through round 6. However, councils who wish to propose other digital planning related work should apply for round 6 of the Local Digital Fund.
Thanks, Leon. Next question is, what will and what won't you fund?
It's quite broad. The Local Digital Fund is designed to be used to deliver projects that address common local service challenges in common reusable ways. As you'll be aware, we recently held a series of local digital roadshows across the country, and following testimonies that we received from various local authorities, we've opted, sorry, not to have a specific theme for round 6 of the fund. The decision to keep the scope open has been taken to encourage innovation, and we invite councils to submit proposals that address common needs. These could include applications in housing, social care, finance, environment, regulatory services, or data standards, for example. We're happy to receive applications for reusable products or services that provide alternative solutions to inflexible options that already exist in the market. However, if we've already funded a project that aims to solve a specific issue, we would not fund a new project for the same purpose. Instead, we'll ask applicants to join the existing project. To that end, I would encourage you to visit our local digital website where you can view the projects that we've already funded.
Excellent, thank you, Leon. And are local authorities required to match funding?
No, we don't expect you to match funding that you request from us pound for pound. What we do expect is that councils will make a contribution towards the project. How you contribute is up to you, but it could include additional funding or dedicating internal staff resource to the project, for example. The contributions that you and your partners make to the project do not have to equal the funding that you request from the local digital fund, but we would ask that you clearly outline in your application what those specific contributions will be.
Nice, and I think we've got the last question, which is it possible to include alpha elements in an application for beta funding?
I think you should make clear in your application what work has been completed so far and what you would like to continue. If you do indicate that you want to include some alpha elements, for example, in a beta, then we may ask to discuss with you what those specific elements are. As an example, continuing to iterate prototypes would be acceptable. We wouldn't expect you to say that you want to start prototyping in your beta phase. My advice would be sensible and consider where you are in your journey when deciding which delivery phase you're going to apply for funding support.
Sound advice, thanks, Liam. Oh, we've got one more question. Can you provide examples of successful funding bids and their benefits to the wider local government community? How can we strengthen an application here?
Okay, the first part, I would say everybody should go and visit the local digital website. That's where you'll be able to access the outputs of our funded projects. All our successful bids are on there, as well as their outputs under the section which is labeled funded projects. From there, you can select the project you're interested in and find project information that includes outputs such as project reports, user research, show and tells, prototypes, and more. A good example of one of our successfully funded projects, which I've already heard mentioned earlier, was Local Gov Drupal, which is a content management system that provides a low-cost solution for councils to update and manage their websites. It's currently used by 31 councils across the country and has driven down the average cost of building a website by around £71,000 a year. I would just say, if you want to strengthen your application, we'd recommend that you provide evidence to demonstrate how common the problem you aim to resolve is, and make it clear how you'll work to ensure that the solution you'd like to deliver will be reusable by other councils across the country.
Brilliant, really, really helpful. Thank you very much, Leon. So now we're moving on to hearing from Paul Doney. Paul is a representative of Newcastle City Council and has kindly agreed to talk through the application process from a local authority's perspective. Newcastle was a recipient of Round 5 funding for an alpha, which has recently been awarded beta funding via the continuous funding model. Paul, thanks for joining us today. Maybe you could start with how you heard about the fund.
Problem, Thomas, thanks for the introduction. I heard it through the grapevine, to be honest, from colleagues in the council. They were all excited about Round 5 being released and the potential for funding and innovation. and went through the process of applying through the application form, which at that time was limited to words, then through an interview process which allowed me and the team to be more expressive in the interview via presentation and being able to talk fast and get more in rather than being constrained with the word application form. So yes, so like Tom said, we're successful last year for the grants application process, which is using no code. So great to hear that this round is kind of open to whatever, really. So very simple things. It can be very simple, this process. Don't be daunted about it. And some really common sense things to adhere to. So read the assessment criteria and the required deliverables and make sure you meet those. It's a bit like applying for a job in that person spec. You want to sell yourself, so make sure everything's in the application form. Consider which phase you want to apply for as well. As Tom said, we applied for alpha. We thought beta was a bit too much considering where we were. And I'll be honest, I wasn't aware of the continuous funding at that point. So it was great once we'd finished the 12-week alpha to be considered as a continuous funding model. And I'll be honest, that was a lot simpler than the process of the alpha process. I didn't have to fill in a form. It was an interview, which again, I've said, you can be a lot more expressive and get more in verbally. So as part of the application process, you've got to ensure that the user is classed as the #1 priority. Describe the issues the users are currently having, provide example user stories of what the project will deliver, and highlight what additional outcomes and efficiencies from this project it will deliver. Don't just think about external users, think about your internal users as well, your service areas within your organization. And like the next point says, describe how your project will benefit your organization and your fellow local authorities. So one example on the grant process, it wasn't just about receiving a grant application digitally, where there would be a case management system that grant service would then process. It was the additional service areas that would benefit. So for example, our beloved audit section, our fraud team. So the system was more auditable and we could detect fraud a lot easier by using a digital system. Provide evidence of the current state and how this funding will improve the situation. So supply any volume or cost information to back this up. So as an example, 5 COVID business support grants we had to manage at short notice, obviously. We paid out £63 million, which is a significant amount. We had nearly 12,000 applications and there was about 1,500 that were rejected. But on top of that, we also demonstrated that we're using 5 technologies to deliver that, including a spreadsheet, which was not what we wanted. We want that one solution. So that's the message we got across in the process. Could you move to the next slide, please, Tom? Thank you. To the plan, it should be based on agile delivery. Mention sprints, not waterfalls. Consider your internal resource, which has already been mentioned. We're all tight on resource at the moment, so don't be afraid of using external resource, but also do consider your resource internally, because after the project's finished, it will need support. So think about backfill of internal resource or the use of apprenticeships, etc. Remember to include the admin as well before the project formally kicks off. So this will demonstrate that I've actually given it, full thought from that message to say congratulations, you have been awarded the fund, right through to the end of the project. So think about, if there are any procurements, how are you going to do that? Speak to your procurement departments. There may be blockers or a lengthier time involved in that. So talk to them before your application goes in, so you have an idea of what that plan would look like. And also demonstrate a good grip on your business case and what the metrics will be used to measure success. So Tom, could you move to the next slide, please? So this just gives an example of a simple way of expressing that. So we've got objectives on the left-hand side, the inputs involved, the outputs that will be delivered, as well as the outcomes. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but just looking at the top one, the improved user experience for communities applying for grants. The inputs were simply the project the project team, they needed to be involved in that and deliver that. The outputs was a minimal viable product that would be developed and tested on 2 funds. And the outcome was the local authority can run a service more efficiently, time saving, reduction in errors, as the process is a lot more automated. Could you move to the next slide, please, Tom? So the interview, like I said, you can be expressive and talkative as much as you like to be, like I do, but one of the good things to do would be to include some of the team, some of your senior sponsors and management, and some of your partners that will be involved in the interview as well, just to make sure that you've got the commitment and you're demonstrating that commitment. Make sure to mention as many outcomes as possible, like I mentioned, the audit, the frauds of this world. Get it all in there. Describe your vision. I did a presentation. I did a killer slide. I had lots of things going on, in and out, animated. I even had moving clouds going across the screen at one point, just to kind of like make it stand out from the crowd. Don't be afraid to ask local digital questions via the Slack or email. They're an absolutely brilliant bunch to work with. And finally, this funding does make a huge difference. So clear your diary and make this a priority.
Paul, that was really good. Thank you very, very much. And hopefully you'll be able to stick around to actually take part in the Q&A session that we're about to launch. And I can see you've been busy posting your questions. And I'm hoping Phil James can step in with a curated selection for us. I'm actually going to stop sharing so you don't have to stare at my face. And in fact, you can. Yeah, Phil's there. Over to you, Phil.
Great, thank you, Tom. Well, thank you to everyone who's been posting questions into our Q&A function. We much appreciate that. So I'm going to take a look at those questions now. I have already been provided with some answers, but where I haven't, I'll be inviting members of the team to answer your questions. So we had one question from Sarah Knott earlier on in the session this morning, and she just posted that she's not clear on the need to collaborate with 2 other councils. So if, for example, she was saying that if she wanted to run a project to do an overhaul on customer forms to improve user-centred design, would she need to find 2 other councils that also want to do the same thing on the same platform? Eglay in the team has already kindly posted me an answer, which is to say that you will need to find 2 other councils who want to do the same thing in your organisation. However, it doesn't necessarily need to be on the same platform if your project aims to do the same platform agnostic. So, Sarah, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
That's great. Okay, and thank you, Eglay. We've also received a question from Alex Shield, and that is saying that you would would we consider working with a software supplier such as a strategic partnership? So the answer I've got here is our approach is to fund council-led projects. The projects themselves can choose to work with software suppliers in their chosen way. So straightforward answer there, Alex. Hopefully that answers your question. Is there anything else, Alex? Not hearing anything there. Great.
I was getting.
Go on, Alex.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess where I was getting at is you have a desirable in one of the assessment criteria about strategic partnerships. My question was more, would you consider a supplier working with a supplier or a couple of suppliers a strategic partnership or not?
Okay, so I can see Eglay.
It looks like a no.
It looks like a no. Eglay's shaking her head slightly there. Eglay, can I just bring you in to expand a little bit?
Yes, so strategic partnership, it's unlikely to be with the supplier because the supplier gets procured and brought onto the project on a paid-for basis. So unless the supplier is doing it kind of like pro bono and is making sure that the project is benefiting it from it in an unpaid-for way, then it might be kind of like a strategic partnership. But yeah, supply is very unlikely to be a strategic partner. It's merely a delivery partner. But if you have any kind of like other questions, or as I said, like if you're looking to work with a project in a different way, you can ask us, and we'll see if we can advise further.
Okay, we'll probably send you the specifics of what we're thinking of and see what you think. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex, and thanks, Eglay, for expanding there. So we've got another question here. Sorry, I'm not sure who this is through, but it's a question here saying, are we at a disadvantage if we apply for beta without having had a discovery or alpha funded? What would you be looking for or wary about for such an application? So our answer there is you're not at all disadvantaged. If you have already carried out a discovery and an alpha, we will be happy to receive an application for beta. In your application, you should link to evidence from discovery and alpha. We'll be looking for such evidence, for example, user research, links to prototypes and other outputs. So thank you for that question. Another question we've received is, what are the match funding expectations? Up to what project value will the fund support? And the answer to that is we don't have any such expectations. We want to see if you have skin in the game, and we definitely don't expect you to match pound for pound. You can find our funding brackets on our website. It's up to £100,000 for discovery, up to £180,000 for alpha, and £350,000 for beta. So thanks to whoever posted that question. The next question we've received is, will projects relating to adult social care be considered? And is there anything with adult social care that will or won't be funded? So the straightforward answer to that is yes, projects will be considered. Projects are well within scope. There's nothing specific that we wouldn't fund, but please make sure that that what you are proposing meets the criteria outlined in the fund prospectus. For example, if you just want to buy a load of hardware to give people, we're unlikely to fund it, as we're unlikely to have scalable benefits. Another question we've received is, if we are struggling to collaborate and match up with another council, could you support us to match if you can see any common themes? So our answer on that is there are a number of ways to get support with finding partners. One of such ways is going on local gov, digital Slack channel. And yes, we can help share your proposal idea with our own comms channels and just sort of casting that net out there for you. So yeah, we can definitely help. Another question, we're getting questions coming in thick and fast, so bear with me while I'm reading them. But another question I can see we've had is, would you consider funding staff-facing work as users? So the answer to that is yes, we would consider these projects. I'm going to now take some of the other questions where I haven't got answers necessarily, so I will be coming to some of the team to answer these. So we've got a question here about, is the funding capital or one-off? I've now had an answer put in and I can see that it's one-off and is revenue. So we've got an answer there. Next question we've had come in is, can you combine bids for different projects, or would it need to be 2 bids? And the answer there we've got is that it would need to be 2 bids. Somebody has asked, could we clarify on what we will and won't fund? Sorry, I've done that one, I think, haven't I? So yeah, that is a no. We can't fund for hardware, so we can't do that, unfortunately. Next question, are the collaborators implicitly other councils? For adult social care, it would be useful to have other partners as collaborators, e.g. partner organisations in ICBs. Could I ask someone in the team to answer that question for me?
I'm happy to come in on this.
Thanks.
So as I mentioned earlier, you can have other partner or other organizations as your partners for the project. So it can be charities, it can be ICBs, I'm so sorry, I don't know what it stands for. It can be other government departments or anything else in the sector. However, you still need to have 2 other council partners. So overall, at least 3 councils need to be listed as partners on your bid, and anyone else, any other organization can be listed as well.
That's
Hope
great.
that answers.
Thank you very much, Eglay. Next question we've had, again, open to the team to come in and answer this one for us. Does this have to be citizen facing? I'd like to explore whether funding would be possible to configure some existing software, and the example is Microsoft 365, Power Platform, you know, if I could just ask someone in the team to answer that one for me. Have I got any takers there? Or is that one we need to come back on?
I wouldn't say it has to be customer facing. If you're looking at something like regulatory services, if there are application processes and you need to put in place some integration with the core data set, which will never be seen by the customer but would deliver benefits to you, such as stopping your staff having to rekey information, then yeah, that would be something we'd be more than happy to fund.
That's great, thanks, Leon. So another question where I've already had the answer posted for me is, within the application, do you focus on the problem or problems facing the lead council, or is there an expectation to include the same level of detail for the partner councils? And the answer I've been given there is we would expect information in the application to demonstrate that it is a common issue and evidence from the partners to demonstrate the scale. So I hope that one is answered sufficiently. Another question we've got, is there an appetite for funding behaviour change work? Anyone in the team, is there an appetite for that?
Yeah, I'll say that. Go on. Sorry.
No, Ben, you go ahead.
So I think, I mean, I think in part, I think it's probably a secondary outcome for projects in this in this fund, but I think it's the sort of thing that we want to tackle more broadly in the future council's work, which Izzy will be talking about later.
That's great, thanks, Ben. Next question I've received is, can districts and boroughs collaborate with county councils? The answer to that is yes, absolutely. Yeah, no problem with that at all. Another question I've received where the answer hasn't been posted yet is, I noticed that historically the fund hasn't funded a lot of digital inclusion projects, Leeds Council the exception. Are you open to funding this kind of work? So yes, I can see a nod there from Eglay. So yeah, nods there all round. So yes, we are open to that. Anything we'd like to expand on, team? Or is it just a simple yes? Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. Hope that's clear for everybody. I've got another question here. Again, I'll be coming to the team for this one. Is there somewhere we can see which councils are looking for partners and what they're looking for? So I think it's essentially the answer that we gave earlier, and I think our Slack channel obviously helps with that. And I know that Eglay is typing in for me as I'm also speaking, and there's also Eddie Copeland's spreadsheet. Eglay, could I just ask you to expand on that in case anyone's not familiar with what that is?
Yes, hi, sorry. So Eddie Copeland, representing Lotte, he recently tweeted out and posted on Slack as well as spreadsheets specifically for this round of funding. And I've already seen councils already feeding in with their ideas, looking for partners, that kind of thing. So that spreadsheet is very much on Twitter and on Slack. So if you look up Eddie Copeland on Twitter, you'll definitely find it. Otherwise, it's on Slack. If you go to Local Gov Digital Workspace, you will find it. If you can't find it, drop us an email and we'll point you to it.
That's great. Thanks, Eglay. I think a real takeaway from all of this is that there's a lot on our local gov Slack channel, and if you don't already, you know, subscribe and look at that or have access to it, then after this call, I'd definitely make it one of your sort of main missions. I think it's a really helpful way of just getting extra information, and quite quickly as well. That's great. Thanks for that, Eglay. Just spend a few more minutes on the questions and just scanning through anything else that we've not answered and that seems to be burning questions. Got a couple more here. We've got if internal resources tight to commit to the ongoing project, can the funding be used for an external project manager to run it? So I think I know the answer to that, but if I could just ask someone in the team to take that one for me. Yeah, it's a nod, isn't it, Eglay? Yeah, absolutely fine with that. I think, you know, again, you know, it was kind of in our introduction earlier in that, you know, if you do need to bring, you know, extra resources on, project managers could be a really good way to ensuring that, you know, your project stays on track, keeps to the timings that you set aside. So yeah, I think that could be a really good way if you are tight for resource. And we've got another question that is asking about follow-up to the district and county question that we had, county council question we had earlier. Can the districts be in the same county as the county council? And the straightforward answer is yes, you can be. It can be different, but it can also be the same. Another question is, would you fund a project if this work has been carried out by other councils, or is it just for new initiatives only? So if I could ask someone in the team to answer that one, please.
So I can take that one, Phil. So
yeah, thanks, Ben.
Because it depends on the scope. So I think that if it take like the Barnes v income management project as an example, so they had built a product for their own purposes, and then they applied to the fund to do some work with other councils to work out whether they could reuse that and what they needed to do. So absolutely, if it's about extending, you know, or joining an existing project, then you know you should talk to them first rather than putting in a new application to us to do that. So I think it's a mixed answer there, I think. Okay, Ben, that's helpful. Thank you very much. I'm going to do two more then from the function that we've got set up, the Q&A function, and then in the last couple of remaining minutes in this session, I will just see if there's any burning questions we haven't got through that someone wants to highlight. But the final two that I will take from our crib sheet is the funding capital? Oh, sorry, I've answered that one. Sorry. So I've got one is, will you fund new software pilots? I've got the answer for this one, and that it is yes, this may be suitable for an alpha or prototyping project where there is a clear and common need. And then the final question I'm going to take from here is, are we able to apply for funding that spans several stages, i.e. a discovery and an alpha stage for a product? The answer to that is no, but our continuous funding framework is available to support appropriate projects to move through the phases. So that's got through most of the questions that I've seen. Thank you to all the team who've stepped in and answered. Can I just now ask everyone on the call, are there any burning questions that we haven't got through that you would like to ask in the next sort of couple of minutes that we've got? Could I ask for you to just put your hand up, please? Okay, I'm not seeing. Oh yeah, we've got a hand up there from Alex. Alex, go ahead, please.
Sorry, me again. I guess I was just quite interested if there's any common mistakes or things that you've not funded in the past that are just like just don't even go there, it's not worth it. You know, is there anything where you just like, yeah, don't do this?
So team, anything that you would say is a definite don't bother, please don't waste your time? I see you sort of shaking your head there. I think there isn't any.
Yeah, Phil, thanks, Phil. I think the first stop should be to have a look at our projects that we've already done. If you go to our local digital gov.digital website, you'll find all the projects there. You'll get a sense of what we've done. We're open, but we've got some clear ideas of the things we want to fund. But come to us with an idea. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, and I think what we were sort of saying as well, any queries, we can do obviously by email or through, setting up a conversation if people want to sort of a chat through in a bit more outside of this webinar. So I think I would take away, Alex, that, if you've got a bit more of a proposal and you're a bit uncertain whether to proceed, definitely take this on offline with us.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. Christine Bremner, if you'd like to ask your question, please.
Hello, we're a Changing Futures funded area from DLUC that spans 3 local authorities already, and part of our project that we're looking at is legacy solutions for digital integration across the 3 counties for people experiencing the multiple complex needs. You talked about the need to show how things would be implemented after sort of the project has gone, and we sort of won't exist because we're looking at legacy solutions that will sit within the county council. So if we were to apply, do you think it would be best to do it under the Changing Futures umbrella that we already sit with, or under where services will sit once we don't exist and have been disbanded? If that makes sense.
Leon, Eglay, Tom, does that make sense? Can someone sort of chip in and talk to Christine? If not, very happy to line something up with you, Christine, out of this call. But any initial reactions to that, guys?
So I'm not honestly, I'm not familiar with the Changing Futures Fund, so happy to take that one away and have a follow-up chat with you on that one.
Be great, thank you.
That's great, thanks Ben for that offer, and Christine, Ben will be in touch with someone on Ben's behalf. We've got Claire with her hand up, so that's Claire Critchell. Claire, if you'd like to ask a question, please.
I'm looking at an online business grant system, which might or might not be similar to what Paul's project was. So my question was, if there is an existing project, do we just link to that? And would we use extra funding, or is there a precedent? Has that been done before, where a project in the previous round has gone through and then another authority has kind of piggybacked off the back of that? And if so, what's the process? Like, how do you link in, and what's the next step?
Yeah. So if it's an existing project that is still active, then I would encourage you to talk to them, and perhaps we can have a conversation through the continuous funding process as to how to pick up additional funding. But then if it's like a more of something off to the side, so whether there's an existing project that's focused on a particular transaction in one area and you want to pick up a different one in the same domain, that would be a fresh application, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose it's the detail, isn't it? It's understanding the detail of what the projects that have gone before.
Yeah, Tom, you've got your hand up. Was you going to come in with a bit more there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because we've got Paul here. So Paul's, as part of his CFO application, is gathering together local authorities, and there's no finite number. So I mean, Paul,
I'm more than happy to engage. The idea is that it's shareable throughout local authorities. We or other authorities develop this, and others can benefit from it. And it's based on our user needs rather than what suppliers would think our users need. So yeah, just get in touch.
Okay, what's the best way to do that, Paul?
I've got your details here, Claire, so I'll ping you an email.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. And that applies to anybody else as well. Just drop me an email, paul.doney@newcastle.gov.uk.
Brilliant, thanks all.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul, for that. And thank you, Claire, for your question. Glad you've been able to link up. That's really what all this is about, actually. So that's really great. Okay, well, I'm going to end the question and answer session there. We are going to obviously post out after this call today, the questions and the answers. Any sort of reflections after this call, do get in touch, do email us in with other questions. We're obviously happy to be approached. But I hope that session was useful for people. I think Jeremy Vine's job is very safe. I don't think I'm any threat to him just yet, but thank you for bearing with me, and I'm going to hand back to Tom. Thank you very much.
Phil, fantastic, Phil. Really appreciate that. So I shall now be sharing my screen, and I'm making sure I've turned on the sound, because we're now going to hand over to Izzy to take over from here. Izzy, can you see your screen and you're ready to go?
I can, yes. Thanks. Nice to see everyone today. I'm going to try and... No, my camera doesn't want to turn on. Fair enough. You have to imagine what I look like. That's fine. Yeah, it's so nice to be here today. I'm going to be talking about our new pilot that we're kind of launching next week. And I just wanted to kind of give you all a bit of a teaser about what's to come. So Tom, if you could go to the next slide and play the video, please. So exciting. So yes, I'm here today to talk about our new pilot, which is called Future Councils. And Tom, if you could go to the next slide, thank you. So what is Future Councils? Future Councils is going to be a partnership with councils to drive holistic change across the council. So one thing we've really heard over our time working on things like the Local Digital Fund and the Cyber Support Programme is that the work is great, but making these changes more broadly across the council rather than just in one area or just focused on one team is really challenging. So we want to understand how we can take the amazing principles that we've got in the Local Digital Declaration and embed them holistically across the council. And we also want to understand how we can address those systemic barriers that stop councils becoming these kind of modern, resilient organisations. So we want to start by piloting this work. It's quite new for us, and we're going to work with a pilot group of around 6 councils, and those councils will get up to £750,000 to work with us over 6 months. So what will they be doing? If you go to the next slide, Tom, for me, please. Thank you. So councils are going to be working with us to using the money that we give them and the support that we give them to deliver digital and cyber improvements across the council. So how do we test how we can create this sustainable continuous improvement cycle across both digital and cyber in different areas, different services? And we also want to understand how we can reform key services using these digital approaches and making sure that they're secure by design. And as I said, we want to tackle the blockers to making change across the council. So whether that's making sure kind of key people like your kind of heads of procurement have like a really good understanding of what digital and cyber kind of like secure by design principles are and how they make a difference, whether that's kind of supporting kind of thought leadership across the council, whether that's unlocking kind of working on some quite innovative stuff around how we can kind of create the next generation of cyber defences at a council. So we really want to test some quite innovative and exciting things. If you go to the next slide, please, Tom. So this is our timeline. We're going to be opening applications to join the pilot next week. It's looking kind of like Tuesday, Wednesday is looking likely, but keep an eye on our socials for the announcement when it opens. And applications will be open for around 4 weeks. So it's quite a short and sweet application form. It's kind of a smaller amount of detail, hopefully, than the Local Digital Fund. We'll then invite in councils to interview by exception. Similarly to the Local Digital Fund, it won't be kind of a big presentation. It'll be just understanding your application in a bit more detail. And we're hoping our pilots will start in early 2023. So we'll announce our cohort and we'll kind of crack on doing some cool work together. Around the end of June, we'll be sharing our links throughout, obviously, but around the end of June, we'll kind of have a review of the pilot and work out how we kind of move forward, continuing to work with those councils, hopefully. And we imagine around summer, there'll be kind of a further round of applications for the bigger programs. So through this pilot, we really want to test the work that we need to do, how we start this work together with councils, the kind of support that councils need to get this work started. And then we'll open up to a much bigger group of around 15 to 20 additional councils. So if you're not quite ready for this right now, that's okay. Like you can wait by the sidelines and kind of keep an eye on what we're doing, and there'll be loads of stories coming out of it. You'll be able to see if it's right for you, and there'll be a further opportunity kind of mid next year to get involved. So on that kind of bombshell, I'm gonna hand back to Tom. So just keep an eye basically out on our social media, on our newsletter, on our website, because we'll be giving much more detail next week when we launch. Thank you.
Brilliant, Izzy. Thank you very much indeed. What a bombshell. So that concludes our webinar for this morning. I hope everybody's got enough information to get ready to put in some really fabulous applications, which we'll be looking forward to receiving over the coming days. So thank you to all the team, and thank you to Paul Doney from Newcastle. And that's it for today. Hope you have a good day, everyone. Goodbye.